everyone. Thank you so much. We are not hooked up to the audio system, unfortunately, so we are going to be projecting our voices a little bit, but I do think we are going to go ahead and get started. We don't have the microphone, and we're keeping our eyes peeled for Lynn with the Miller Center, so if you see her, we'll try and get hooked up with that. But we do have some seats at the front too. So if you really are struggling to hear, we've got about 5 seats closer up. Awesome. Cheers. Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Can people hear me okay? I'll do my best to project. Do you want me to hold it?
No, just pick the microphone alone, just the microphone.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Lisa. I am the mayor's chief of staff. We really appreciate everybody coming out on a Wednesday night. I do want to start with some unfortunate news. There is a stomach bug that's been ripping through City Hall. So unfortunately tonight, the mayor and our senior director went home early with the stomach bug, and our director of planning had to leave with a family emergency earlier this week. And we know this is really unfortunate. These are some of the people who are best positioned to answer a lot of the questions that you have. We wanted to keep this meeting so we can start to engage everybody and answer some of these questions. But we are also going to plan to do another meeting once people are back on our feet. So I just wanted to let everyone know that we will do our best. We are not, unfortunately, the people best positioned to answer a lot of these questions. I also want to start by saying that we know that there have been a lot of questions specifically about Star Farm Park and about Ethan Allen Park. And unfortunately, our planning director is best positioned to answer questions specifically about public city-owned land. But I do want to say up front that we are not actively pursuing development on Star Farm Park or Ethan Allen Park. We are still in the planning phase and we're actively getting community feedback. There are going to be many more points along the way of community engagement and a long municipal process before any decisions are made. Nothing is happening tomorrow. We are still in the planning process. Any images that you may have seen are conceptual. They're not proposed projects. They're not proposed developments. These images have been removed to avoid further confusion, but I just wanted to make it really clear up front that there are no active plans to develop on parks. We are exploring developing on city-owned land, but we have not made those plans. So with me today are Sarah Morgan, Principal Planner for the City of Burlington, and Kate McCarthy from the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. This meeting is intended to be a listening session, opportunity to address some of your questions and concerns. We're going to start with a brief presentation to provide some context before we open up to discussion. There's index cards and pens that will be available throughout the meeting for anyone who may want to submit comments or questions in writing, either during or after the discussion. I believe we're doing written questions, and we will follow up after the meeting. Staff will post written responses to questions both that are asked tonight and that we talk about tonight, and questions that we aren't able to get to, and we will get to those as soon as possible. We are down some staff right now, so it may be sometime next week, if not at the end of this week. Town Meeting TV is here to record. They're not live streaming, but the recording will be posted later this week. And I think that's it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kate.
I'll repeat what others have said. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Kate McCarthy. I'm with the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, and the reason I'm here is that we helped fund this study, which includes some of the things we're talking about tonight, but also a great deal of other things as well related to mobility, to local businesses, to housing, and other things that we've heard from new North End residents you're interested in. So, before this meeting, I know a lot of you have probably been to meetings where there are group expectations or group agreements. We didn't have time to pull those together for tonight, but it turns out it looks like there's been a summer camp here, and they've got expectations on the wall. So I'm not worried about you climbing or running or keeping your hands to yourself. I think you're going to be fine. It says to stay with your group. I'd encourage you to listen with an open mind. Stay with your group if you want to. And please, thank you for being here and being open to hearing a wide variety of information from us and from your neighbors about your neighborhood. The main thing on the camper expectations is be kind. I know we can do that. We're here together. We care enough to be kind. The other thing I often like to add in group expectations is this idea of expecting and accepting non-closure. The conversation will continue. Nobody ever has all the answers. We have a lot of brains here and ideas. The conversation will continue. So I invite you to expect and accept non-closure. So those are the group expectations. And I know you're going to be fine with not running around. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate everyone for coming out tonight. It's so beautiful out, and I'm so appreciative of everyone's time here this evening. You'll see Kate with some index cards as well as markers and pens. Just because there are so many of you and we've gotten so many questions, we're finding that the best way to really address some of this and collect these questions and answer them is going to be through writing. So this evening, and thank you to those of you who have pre-prepared questions or sent them to us in advance. We have we've prepared responses to some of those. We are also going to be getting some from Kate, and then like Lisa had mentioned earlier, we're going to be posting responses on our website in the coming week or so. So if you do have a question and something to add, definitely just flag Kate down and she will either give you a card or collect your card. But great. Awesome. And everyone can hear us okay? Awesome. So we're going to start with a very brief presentation before we get into this, just to kind of lay the groundwork and provide context for the plan. And I wanted to touch a little bit on what citywide planning is in Burlington. So we're doing two efforts right now. We're doing a number of efforts, but two kind of big ones related to citywide planning. One is planBTV 2050, and it's a collaborative citywide municipal planning effort to help shape Burlington's future. It's 4 different departments that are coming together for the first time to do this very large municipal plan. So it's economic development, it's parks, it is transportation, and it is our land use plan. And by combining these efforts, this large planBTV 2050 will move beyond these department boundaries and really create this holistic planning document to really help guide the city. And I really am saying this because I want to encourage all of you to continue staying involved in this. For those of you who have signed in, we will be sending all of this information out. You can get added to our mailing list, and that's really just to get you all involved and make sure that you stay in these conversations. I also want to emphasize that though these are very related, the planBTV New North End is very related. These are not the same projects, but they are, again, related. Neighborhood plans are more of a vehicle for residents to really help shape the future of their neighborhoods. These neighborhood plans allow us to kind of dive a little bit deeper and explore community issues related that are unique to that neighborhood, like mobility, like need for more community facilities and programming, certain types of housing, and other just unique challenges that, for example, the New North End might be facing that the South End might not be. So these plans often result in very neighborhood-specific goals and that are intended to align with community values. We've gotten some questions about how we've done engagement over the last 18 months for this plan. And one of the really great things about plans is that the conversation is not really over at these different stages. You see, I think 3 different stages on this screen, and there's opportunities to engage in all of them. And the benefit of having planBTV 2050 also happening is that the conversations are definitely going to be continuing. But I really wanted to run through how we've been doing engagement. I'm so excited there's so many of you, but I don't know if my poster is big enough. After this session, we are really interested in knowing from you all how you typically hear from or hear about news in your neighborhood. I think we've heard questions about, why haven't I heard about this yet? And we want to ask you, what's the best way to notify you? How do we keep you all informed? How do we bring you into the process? But these next couple of slides are really just going to show what efforts we have made. So this is about 3 different stages: visioning, planning and urban design, and really putting that plan together. So we started this off with a neighborhood visioning workshop on December 17th, 2024. And we did some outreach and communications related to attending the NPA, sharing information there, front porch forum invitations, going to the bagel, and also we have a city planning newsletter. Oh, uh-oh. Awesome. Really, things are going really smoothly today, if you can't tell. We're gonna try a different HDMI port. Oh, here we go, we're back. Sorry, everyone. Front porch forum information, and we are trying really hard also through this plan to show up more in person to events, so you'll see more of that tabling. I think that during the start of this plan, one thing we really heard was you can post online a lot, or you can really meet people where they're at. So this, our strategy was to strike a balance, but again, we're excited to, as part of the comp plan, engage in different ways. So that was all leading up to our visioning workshop. And then we had our project kickoff at St. Mark's back in January 2025. You can see our outreach and communications there. I recognize several of you from that open house as well. And this is where we really launched the project. And it was a really exciting and pretty well attended event. We did continue engagement following that. So circulating information in things like e-newsletters again. We really got to work with Burlington High School students a lot. Front Porch Forum. Does anyone remember the pom-poms that were up along North Ave with the signs? Those were to raise awareness of this plan and also kind of show what placemaking could look like. And also a invitation to attend a virtual housing forum. More engagement that was done, attending the mayor's meetup to share information. We partnered a lot with AARP Vermont for this plan. We attended the Shiflety Park 75th anniversary with a table there. NPA, Letty Park Beach Bites, and then really getting people, you can see most of July was spent really getting people informed and coming to our neighborhood design workshop and to take our feedback survey over in July. We did get, shout out to the New North End, 275 survey responses, which is not too bad for a neighborhood plan. But again, continued community engagement, really again, trying to get people involved, presentations at places like Northgate, really trying to show up and provide these same boards, the same visuals, the same information at places where people who might not have been able to attend that design workshop might also be. Again, more continued engagement throughout the last fall. Front Porch Forum presentation with the Conservation Board, and you can really see during this period of time through the stars and through others, this is where we were really starting to get the boards and commissions involved at this stage. And also during this, taking that community feedback and incorporating the feedback that we received from July onward into that plan. So during I think one of the questions is what we've been up to for the last 6 months or so, and we're really putting that over 200-page document together. But now we are at the stage of, getting it out there. And that's why we're all here tonight. That's one of the big reasons that you all are here and have heard about it. And we are in the process of working with the Planning Commission about over this plan. We have information about the upcoming Planning Commission meeting, hearing on this, and are looking forward to sharing the feedback that we receive here tonight, as well as in writing with our commissioners. I will say that we are doing this Planning Commission public hearing on the 28th, next Tuesday. However, again, the conversation is continuing. There's then a phase at the city council level. So if the Planning Commission chooses to recommend the plan to the City Council, it will then be open for City Council discussion. And I want to reiterate what Lisa had said earlier. The illustrations, those visuals for Star Farm and Ethan Allen Park have been, excuse me, removed from the plan document and are going to be presented. The plan is going to be presented without those concepts to the Planning Commission at the on next Tuesday. So with that, all of that feedback, and I do see, we're not doing the back and forth piece, but we will get into that during the Q&A piece. Great.
Just as a process question, does the City Council vote yes or no whether we adopt the plan?
Yes. Yep. So all of that together, all of that 18-month work, this work today, was done to create a vision and guiding principles. The vision is behind me, and as are the guiding principles. New North End residents envision their neighborhood growing to become a well-connected, inclusive, and vibrant community that balances growth with affordability, sustainability, and fosters a strong sense of place. Guiding principles being foster a strong and inclusive sense of community, expand housing choice and affordability, create a safer and more connected transportation network, strengthen community centers and walkable mixed-use areas, protect and enhance natural spaces, and prioritize sustainability and green infrastructure. So how does the plan support this vision? So we have 3 frameworks in the plan. And again, I know a lot of you here tonight are really here to talk about or really interested in learning more about the Star Farm and Ethan Allen Park, but I want to encourage everyone to also go back and check out all the other frameworks as well. There's some really exciting stuff in there, including the multimodal transportation framework, which has the goal of making it safe and practical and convenient to walk, bike, take the bus for everyday trips within the neighborhood. Placemaking, which is all about creating and activating public squares, streetscapes, and community spaces throughout the neighborhood. That really includes community facilities as well. Urban design, focusing at new housing and mixed-use development at key locations along North Ave to build density and activity where it might be most useful. So I'm gonna, for the sake of time, just show some images. We've got in the plan information about what this connected multimodal network could look like, including different options for pathways and different opportunities to get around the neighborhood. We have a reimagined North Ave, which is very exciting. An active mobility network that'll really support the east-west connections across the neighborhood as well, not just the north-south. And public spaces that really complete the neighborhood. And lastly, the urban design focus areas in the New North End. So I want to emphasize that these areas in pink are nodes of activity that were identified because they have the potential to adapt and evolve into these more vibrant spaces. They are places that New North Enders wanted to see something different or maybe more, and that more could look different at each of these spaces. It could look like, for example, more community facilities or another recreation center at one of these spaces. It could look like more housing at one of these spaces. It could look like other amenities, other mobility options. So these 5 pink dots are not treated the same. It's not kind of like copy paste, but they do share a few different characteristics. They have capacity, proximity, opportunity, and connectivity. And these are them. They are intentionally high level and illustrations. They are conceptual visions that integrate transportation, land use, housing, and open space. They are not intended to be development proposals, and instead they are intended to guide further study, coordination, and community conversations just like this one. And how it all fits together is in this kind of crazy map that we see on the screen, which it looks a lot better on paper or on your own screens than on this projector. But this, again, is a long-term framework for growth and investment in the New North End. Now, housing and community spaces on city-owned land, I just want to note there that and Lisa, feel free to jump in here, but one of the key reasons that we are having this conversation across the city, not just in the New North End, is to explore opportunities for whether city-owned land is able to help support housing and community goals. This is looking at a wide variety of land across Burlington. It is not just looking at parks in the New North End. It is looking at parking lots elsewhere, and is going to be a very, very long process that is thorough. It will involve a high level of community engagement, all within a public asset study. There are a few positives to using city-owned land. Generally, it has the opportunity to make housing more affordable, help fund nearby parks, depending on where it's located. It really means that the community does get a say, because it is land that would continue to be owned by the city. It could model what sustainable development looks like. Again, having that say, having that buy-in, having that ownership, keeping money in the local economy, and generating revenue for Burlington. Those are, again, just rationale for why this is being explored. And with that, I do have some pre-prepared questions based on a lot of the feedback that we've already gotten that we're happy to dive into. The first being, is planBTV New North End proposing development plans for either Star Farm Park or Ethan Allen Park? And I want to emphasize that no, the city is not actively pursuing development on either of these sites. These parks are not any of the city-owned property, whether it is in New North End, any city-owned property, the planBTV New North End nor the city are proposing development on. The intent of these types of illustrations are really for us to explore and have conversations like this about what people might like about these spaces, what they might be interested in, and really kind of try things on for size.
So what would be or look like on Tuesday that you're telling people that are here freshly about empty spaces?
Sorry, I'm going to continue on this question, but I'm happy to answer that later on. But we
have a time to talk.
Actively does not mean future.
Yeah, what is
so
active?
within 2 years,
What is
you
active?
could be developing. Actively is present, so it's a little tricky to talk about.
Yeah, great clarifying question. We are not, this plan in no way, shape, or form is a development proposal. It is not greenlighting any development. It is not giving the go-ahead for development to happen. What we are doing at a city-wide level is looking at every parcel the city owns, and this study will start next summer. The study has not started yet. The study will look at every parcel that is owned by the city and examine whether or not it would be suitable, feasible, financially feasible, especially ecologically sensible for development to happen on that parcel. We need to spend a lot of time looking at deeds. We need to spend a lot of time looking at financial limitations. And we also really need to spend a lot of time looking at the ecological value of these spaces. And we want to look at every space that the city owns like that. Again, this is not a development plan. This is a visual to help us kind of try on what people like and don't want in these different spaces. And again, I want to emphasize that if there are continued questions about this, Kate McCarthy has many index cards, and we will be able to send out clarifying questions or clarifying responses.
Lisa, anything? Does anyone need a blank index card, since that's how we're collecting questions?
The other thing I would really like to emphasize again is that we are very short-staffed, and a lot of the people who have been deep in the work, specifically on the city-owned land piece, are not here tonight due to unforeseen circumstances, which I know is incredibly frustrating. This is not how we expected the meeting to go. And like I said, we are planning to put another meeting like this on the books once we have the appropriate people here to fully answer some of these questions.
Defer the vote until after that meeting takes place?
The city council vote is not until a very long time away. Like, that's
Planning.
Yeah.
We are in a process with the planning commission right now, and once it's before the planning commission has a set hearing, it is up to the planning commission at that time to decide whether or not they want to vote on that.
The mayor can defer the vote to the planning commission. Why won't she do that until people have a chance to talk about it?
I want to say,
Other people can't hear. So there's multiple people who are asking for information about next Tuesday. They're asking for an ability to participate. And what we're hearing is that is being shut off because you're going to put this to the vote next week.
if you would like to participate in the planning commission public hearing next week, I
want to know why it won't be deferred until people can really be heard.
I understand that. I am about to share how you can definitely have your voice be heard. I also want to emphasize we are, again, because we are short-staffed, if we aren't going to have the kind of management of questions through index cards and kind of have this system, we are going to have to really reevaluate how this meeting will go and whether the best way to do this. So I do want to emphasize that.
We think that this is a very important conversation that we want to be having, and again, emphasizing that it's unfortunate that a lot of the people who we would like to be here to help with this conversation are not here. And we will have more opportunities for engagement, not just next week at the Planning Commission, not just the next community meeting that we plan once we have the appropriate people here, but just throughout the entire process. So we are doing our best up here. We want to be able to give you as much information as we can about what we have right now. And I would like to be able to get through this presentation, then we can move on to more questions.
Will the public have a chance to talk to you tonight? You're talking to us. We'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, what if you just listen? You said you want to listen. You could just have people raise their hands, answer them, and listen and record them. You can't answer questions.
I know.
You could record information.
We're trying to get through our presentation first before we can, so that way we have all the context that we can give you all the context that we currently have. So if we can get through our presentation, that would be really great.
And we all agree to that. To let them get through the presentation and then talk.
Thank you. The questions that you see on the screen are ones that we have received from the public, that we have received over the last several weeks. These are responses to questions that we have already gotten. These are not questions that we have made up. These are important for answering questions that we have received from members of the neighborhood within this room. So, great. So again, planBTV New North End is not proposing, these are not development plans. I appreciate the need for clarification on actively, and I hope that my response kind of creates some clarity there on there is a long process, and this is not an active green light to have development on these park spaces. Why were Star Farm and Ethan Allen Park identified as focus areas? The purpose of these focus areas is to illustrate what the community goals and guiding principles and vision could look like if city-owned land was considered. However, these focus areas are not intended to be development plans. Star Farm and Ethan Allen Park were identified as areas that could potentially help with these goals, contingent, of course, on community conversations like this one. We had a couple of different methods of identifying the 5 focus areas, one being community engagement. From December 2024 to April 2025, we engaged with residents and asked the question of, where do you see opportunities for something new and different? For example, Star Farm Park was identified by residents because of their interest in some greenway-oriented amenities. One being, would there be an opportunity for some commercial at the intersection off the bike path, a coffee shop, a mobility space, something like that off of the bike path was something that residents were interested in us exploring. Additionally, the intersection of Ethan Allen Park and North Ave was largely identified because it has been historically an unsafe intersection. And through the redesign of that intersection, this long-term vision would allow for some additional space and a reimagining there. So again, that focus area was identified because and was based largely on the need to improve the safety at that intersection. The plan will continue to identify growth along the corridor, but I again want to emphasize that these two kind of visuals, these concepts, are being removed from that plan document. We also undertook a brief analysis to really look at feasibility of these sites as well. Great. And I just want to also note that that analysis that I had mentioned, again, kind of secondary to the feedback, would really help us look into the future and anticipate growth and what that space could look like. And yeah, please.
As you're reading this one, I want to acknowledge this question came in on a card. Why were the visuals of development at Star Farm Park created and published if the city does not plan to develop Star Farm Park in the future? So just want to acknowledge that we're doing
perfect.
Put it in this pile.
Again, so we have another question of, if these concepts aren't intended to happen soon, if at all, why are such detailed illustrations included in this plan? I think several of you in this room that I've seen online and otherwise have the same question. So I want to first acknowledge that I understand completely how when you see a very detailed site in a plan, it immediately can cause some prickliness, hesitation, and concern. I want to acknowledge that this is Burlington's New North End plan is one where this is the first time that we've kind of used visuals like that in these neighborhood plans. We have two other neighborhood plans, one being the South End from 2019 and the Downtown Waterfront one from 2013. And this is us trying something new. So we want to just acknowledge that we completely understand why these would cause confusion, alarm, questions of, well, where was the process? So definitely want to make sure I share that. So it's often easier, and again, I think we can see in this room, it's often easier for folks to react to something rather than a concept, or rather than an idea. So these illustrations for all of our focus areas, and the reason for going so into detail on these is to really try these sites on for size. Try some of these ideas on, and then allow something or present something for folks to react to and say, I like that. I don't like that. I would rather this be over here. For example, one of the points from the Star Farm piece that some of the feedback that we got back in July was this love of the smaller ice rink at that park. And folks had said, hey, that ice rink is really important to us, but what are we gonna do in the summertime? And some of the feedback that we got was, turn it into a splash pad. And so these visuals really allow us to have folks react to something, and also allow us to show what these guiding principles and what this vision could look like in practice. So, what?
Star Farm Park, Star Farm is owned by the Flynn estate, and it has super restrictions on what can be done.
So
the city assumed the Flynn estate and take it over, and now you're trying to figure out what to do with it?
No.
Agreed to wait for the end.
And I want to reiterate, that's one of the questions that we are going to be responding to over in our document that we'll be circulating. So make sure that everyone's signed in best you can, or we will be posting this on our website as well. But that piece is, the Flynn Estate is something that we're really going to have to look at as part of that city asset study. Earlier in this meeting, I had mentioned one of the needs for this type of civic asset study is to say, what are these restrictions on all of these sites across the city? For example, there's a parking lot, and we've gotten some questions asking, hey, why are you looking here and why not a parking lot? There are agreements going back to the 70s that might require the city to pay back a couple $100,000 to change a use on that site. There might be something that is similar to the Flynn Estate. There's probably something similar in terms of conservation to Ethan Allen Park. There are definitely these points that would need to be explored in that civic asset study. And even if it's not for development purposes, I want to emphasize how important having a city asset study is for us to even have a sense of what we own, what the value is, what restrictions are, and really dive into that property itself. It's really important for us to have that sort of inventory. Great. So to answer your question, I personally do not know details on the Flynn Estate, and any further study would be done as part of that public asset study. So what happens after the adoption of the neighborhood plan? Does adoption authorize development? No. This plan establishes a long-term vision for the neighborhood. It helps guide future decisions, and it identifies and prioritizes future study. For example, one of the recommendations related to the Greenway is a safety study to understand, what does safety look like on the bike path right now? Are there opportunities for improved features? Are there ways for people to address speeds or other uses? So that's one of the recommendations for future study that I wanted to touch on. For any city-owned parcels, the city does recommend several additional steps before anything could be even conceptually implemented, including that public asset study. And with that public asset study would come heavy amounts of community engagement, just like this. So one of the reasons that we are doing this neighborhood plan is that the New North End is likely going to see growth in the future, whether that is driven by the city or by others. It will experience growth and change. So this plan is really critical to have some sort of guiding document to provide an idea or a vision for what residents want that change to look like and what they want different departments, not just city planning, transportation, parks, economic development, what they're interested in seeing from those departments as well. Why is city-owned land being considered for housing? And Lisa, I'm briefly gonna ask you to touch on this just so I can drink some water.
I'd like to chime in.
Oh yeah, please.
Question that we received that is related to this. That's right. Someone asked, one good question is, why is there a microphone if it's not making any noise? And the reason is that we are being recorded for Town Meeting TV. This recording will be made available. The microphone helps. Thank you very much with the camera. So why is city-owned land being considered for housing? There are also questions about why the planning is happening now, what the goals would be for who lives there, what would be possible. Will any dwelling units built on public land be sold to landlords to rent and profit privately off these units? Is there a goal for the percentage of owner-occupied units developed on a property? Why was Apple Tree Park not included? Have you looked at privately owned land for this? So I wanted to kind of roll those together so we can get some of these in there. And
thank you.
I know you can answer those together.
Okay, great. The primary reason that city-owned land is being considered generally across the city is the need for more housing and to maximize the benefit of housing development for our community rather than depending solely on private development for housing and other amenities. So we are, as a city, as a state, as a county really looking for new housing development, and we want to explore ways of doing this that really prioritizes the long-term affordability for residents. And using city-owned land is one way that we could do that. It would mean maintaining public ownership and then therefore creating stronger expectations related to affordability, sustainability, and community wealth, and also ensure that the affordability and housing could also be co-located around other community amenities like transit, like parks, etc. Some details about why city-owned land are available online that I do want to call out on our website. We have this document here, and I'm happy to include it in the circulation. And it just dives a little bit more into how this fits in with the mayor's housing strategy, why we're even talking about it. Great. Oh, great. Some benefits that the plan recognizes for city-owned land is that it can reduce land costs. It improves affordability. Oh my gosh, how many more times can I say affordability, right? It can improve housing affordability in a way that makes low and middle income housing development more financially viable. I think we get a lot of questions from folks about why we aren't building more family-sized units, or why more family-sized units like 3-4 bedrooms aren't being built, why we're seeing mainly studios and otherwise. And a huge reason is because of the cost to developers. And we know that communities want to see more kind of middle scale housing instead of some larger, it's even in our guiding principles, instead of seeing larger developments, large complexes with a lot of studios, neighborhoods are really interested in seeing more duplexes, townhouses, etc. Those are really, really tough to make a reality financially. So if we have a property, let's say it is a parking lot, and we can explore whether housing's feasible there, we might be able to offset that cost and really actually make it financially viable for the type of housing that residents want to be built on that space. This is a question that we did receive a few times, and that would be explored through that community engagement piece. I do not have that answer, and that would be a question that would be answered during that large wave of community engagement as part of public asset studies, as part of the then subsequent work of developing that site.
I think you said this, Sarah, but to put a finer point on it, and we work region-wide at the CCRPC, and one of the things we have seen is that when the public owns the land, the public has a leverage point for what happens on that land. And so as far as there are some questions about here, how much will be affordable housing? How do we make sure it generates tax revenue? Who does this benefit? Who profits? When in other places where we have worked, there's a different discussion about what gets developed and how when the municipality owns the land. So I say that as an example of how things have been done in other places. As Sarah said, the process will continue, and what any agreement, if any, would look like remains to be seen.
Great. Thank you, Kate. The other question that we received is, how is this plan determining whether a park is underutilized or not? And I just want to apologize for any and clarify that any reference to underutilization of parks has long been removed, like referring to parks as underutilized has been removed from the plan document itself. And I want to be clear that, and I'm looking at Rebecca from the Conservation Board and the conversation we had back in April where she pointed that out to us. There were others from AARP who recognized and asked, pointed out it's a really tough thing to measure. And our office does not have data related to park utilization. That's going to be explored as part of the the 2050 comprehensive plan. You might have seen some really great BPRW folks in the parks or in Star Farm this weekend doing some intercept surveys. But yeah, that's a really tough thing to measure. And I want to clarify that we are not basing any of this on the utilization. And I want to say, like, we are not implying that these spaces are underutilized, and that we are going to be also working with the Conservation Board on an ecosystem services analysis as well, to actually gain a clearer understanding of ecological benefits of these spaces that will be wrapped into the public asset study and used as a measurement tool there. So just wanted to note that. And again, the purpose of these concepts in the New North End, specifically these two sites, one of the interesting things about these is their co-location to parks and different amenities. And one thing we wanted to explore in this plan is whether through co-location, other uses could be explored, including new community amenities, such as that new splash pad that I'd mentioned. How can that be maybe co-located next to that newly irrigated soccer field? So things like that. But I want to emphasize that determining whether or not a park or a public green space, whether that's appropriate for any additional use, is going to be explored through additional public, at a citywide scale. It's going to be explored through additional public conversation, such as this, additional study through planBTV 2050 and the public asset study, and also through environmental evaluations. So I want to make that very clear. And just apologize for any confusion and provide clarity when it comes to that underutilized term. Oh.
Okay. Thank you for registering that public statement about underutilization. More data is needed. That term probably shouldn't have been used. I'm gonna, next one's about infrastructure. There were two questions about infrastructure that I want to read in. The first one, our current infrastructure fails to accommodate the current New North End population. What's the plan to fix our roads, sidewalks, et cetera first? And the other one is, how does the need for sewer infrastructure affect these studies and plans? AKA, the lake's polluted. How's that going to change? And Sarah will answer this question, but one of the things I will share is that as part of the planBTV New North End process, there were a lot of players, and one of them was an engineering firm that was brought in to analyze if the New North End were to change, what would need to change in the sewer, in the infrastructure. It's sewer, it's water, it's stormwater, because any process has to be done very carefully. You can't just have one thing and ruin other things. So that was folded into the analysis. I do not have numbers of percent capacity, gallons per day, et cetera, but I do want you to know that that was in the study.
I have those numbers, Kate, written down. Don't you worry. So starting first with are our water and sewer systems able to handle this amount of new housing? And I want to say yes, but, and this analysis that Kate had talked about, yes, but targeted infrastructure improvements would still be needed. And one of the recommendations that you see in the plan is the need to pursue CHIP financing to potentially help finance different construction costs of housing-related infrastructure. So that's one resource that has recently come online from the state level that the plan recommends exploring a little bit more how that can help offset costs for the targeted infrastructure changes. The plan includes, and I'm going to read these numbers out because I don't want to mess them up. This plan includes a high-level analysis that estimates that the full build-out of all 5 of these focus areas, and again, these are just kind of casting a wide net for number of units, for locations. There's no guarantee that any of these 5 will happen or materialize, let alone all at once. But for these, if that were to happen, this would increase our wastewater flows by about 143,780 gallons per day, bringing the New North End from roughly 40% of its permitted capacity to 47%, which still remains within its design capacity. The plan also does recognize that there are some aging water mains that would need upgrade before this future growth could be accommodated. And again, there are new resources at the state level that are being explored, but I want to just assure folks that this has been considered in this plan. And related, and thank you, Kate, for categorizing these and kind of lumping these a little together, have traffic studies been completed to accommodate this new growth? So because these are conceptual images, there have not been project-specific traffic analyses yet. If you see in the recommendations in the mobility section, there are several related to scoping studies and others. So this would really lead to additional study on that traffic. If any future development, especially at that scale, is proposed, a formal traffic analysis would be part of that project's review process. This plan does build on previous transportation analyses and scoping studies that have been done in the neighborhood, including the North Ave corridor study, as well as long-standing discussions around safety and safety at specific intersections in the New North End. And those, you'll see some different recommendations related to those in the plan as well.
You're going on to the next one, can I?
We actually, that's all the
Okay.
comments or kind of collected ones.
Okay.
But we're saving the next one.
I'd like, because we're talking about traffic and transportation, I want to read 2 comments about transportation. 1, most of the residential streets in the New North End are very rugged and haven't been repaved in decades. I deliver Meals on Wheels in the New North End, and I'm really annoyed that my tax money is not addressing very poor shape of the streets. Then there are some streets named here, to name a few, it says. So I wanted to share that. Improvement, capital planning, it has to be part of a planning process. Here's another comment. During the summer, bikes might help get to the store and post office, but big packages or heavy are a problem. In the winter, anyone over 40 is unlikely to ride a bike, so double bike lanes on either side of North Ave aren't useful, and more houses will create much more traffic. Good to have a bike path already and bike lane already. No to houses and parks. Good to redo Ethan Allen Shopping Center and roundabout. Okay at Plattsburgh Ave, but silly not to allow turn right to cars. We are aging, so bikes won't work for everyone, especially in the winter. Bike lanes aren't where it's at. That's kind of how that wraps up. Just wanted to add that in.
Thank you, Kate. And on some of that, I want to note there are some points in our plan with reference to AARP and the partnership that we had there. We have really consulted them a lot on the mobility piece. I think that there's a lot of conversations, especially in Burlington and up in this neighborhood, where it's either drive or bike or drive or walk. And we really want to emphasize that options are the key piece here, and that the ability to safely have convenient mobility options is what's being explored. There's some other pieces in this plan related to mobility hubs, where we can co-locate different mobility services across these neighborhoods. When we wrap up, I do have some posters related to mobility under this. But what those could look like, are they different? Is there a location for a car share car? Is there some e-bike rentals? Is there a covered bus stop at that space? And one thing I'm really excited for, I'm really excited for the conversation in planBTV 2050 in the transportation plan. So I think I'd mentioned that the last plan had been, 2013 for the transportation plan at the citywide level. And we are in desperate need to reevaluate what our transportation system looks like in Burlington and kind of stress test in a way the existing and potential networks with new growth and what that could all look like and what that all means for GMT and other transportation options. I do want to note that, North Ave is the 7 bus, fantastic, love the 7. It doesn't expand into a lot of the neighborhoods, and it makes it really, really tough in the wintertime to walk from some of the more far-reaching parts of the New North End. So folks are having to walk a mile or so to a bus location. It makes it really not quite convenient unless you have your crampons on in the middle of winter, and sometimes not even then. So I want to recognize that through that transportation study, we are actively having these conversations. And again, I want to encourage everyone to stay involved with planBTV 2050 and participate at that citywide level. So we can't necessarily solve the transportation system in planBTV New North End. We can make some recommendations, but we really need to have those conversations at the citywide level.
Can I say something?
Please, I would love that. Sorry.
We've got 25 minutes left and we haven't been able to talk to you yet.
So we have the questions on cards, which we'd like to get through.
We don't necessarily have questions, we have comments about what
Okay.
we've seen already.
I have a lot of questions here in front of me and some comments as well.
But the questions were going to be posted on your website next week.
Oh, they are. They are. And
This is a great way to avoid the public.
it's not the intention. And I would like, I'd like to share that we're trying to do the best with the time we have and the number of people we have and the passion that's in the room. Okay. Thank you. Would you mind holding on a second? Would you mind holding on a second? Let's think about how we can act and adjust. We've had people who have submitted comments who we want to make sure those are heard, and we have 25 or 30 minutes left. Please hold.
I want to note that I'm assuming, show of hands, who would like to have their voice heard?
Who'd like to speak?
Who wants to speak? Is a fair amount of hands, and we do have 25 minutes left in this. I again want to note that a lot of the folks who are who probably you want to say the information to and your comments to are not in this room right now, and I acknowledge that. So that's one thing I want to acknowledge. I want to acknowledge that also at this Planning Commission public hearing, we have a public forum at the beginning that folks are welcome to speak at. It's the first part of that public forum. It'll start at 6:45 next Tuesday. It is online or it is in person. We take written comments and we take comments, verbal comments. So I want to share that. And when we, as Lisa had mentioned earlier, when we have this next meeting, because we acknowledge that with just the three of us, that some are disappointed that others aren't in this room, we can work with them and talk with them on how to have a more, for some, satisfying meeting. But this meeting right now, my intent in being here is to provide clarification and answers to questions that I have personally been receiving consistently from dozens of members of the public. Great. So.
Do you want to go from the cards or you can take questions?
I think that there is a lot of overlap in questions that are going to be asked. So if we do take questions from the public, we do ask that you please limit the time of your question, and we ask that they be questions or actionable, and try to keep the time limit down and remember the expectations and that there will be more opportunities for future comment. And I know that there are some city staff members here who have been at it who did not expect to be here tonight and are covering for others. And I want to be respectful of their time. So I do want to retain at least an 8 o'clock close. So I think we're going to take questions from we'll take questions, comments, short comments. And again, I might put up a visual cue of 2 minutes so that we can get through these. Does that sound, can I get some agreement from folks here? Okay. Great. I'm going to get queued up here.
Okay.
And Kate,
We're going to get queued up.
Bring the microphone.
Will I?
I'm sorry, I know this has been said a million times, but I just want to say one more time, if you have questions, we may not be able to answer them with the people we have here tonight. We're doing what we can, knowing that illness happens.
And you can hear it and take it back.
Yes, we can do that. I just want to make sure that. Yes.
Just listen.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we'll get the timer set up in the meantime. We can. Yeah, if people are able to stand up and comfortable doing so, that would be great. And you're going to start our timer. Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Sherwood Smith, Pleasant Avenue. People keep seeming to ask. I lived here 22 years on Pleasant Avenue. So my question is, in organizing the meeting, realizing that there's well over 100 people here, I don't understand how you plan to get feedback from people with the structure that you presented beyond the cards, which then means people have to either wait for the answers or hope to be able to seek clarification from whatever responses they have. So I'm really worried about what the next meeting is going to be like with 200 or 100 people in it. If you follow the same format, there won't be chances for conversations with this structure. End.
Thank you. So the same format won't work. We hear that. And we hear what you want. Yes, this one actually. Rome.
Premature.
Thank you.
My name is Sylvia Stebbins. I'm a 90-year resident of the north end of Burlington. My backyard goes into Ethan Allen Park. Going through some of the paperwork that my husband left behind last year, I found a deed to Ethan Allen Park, a deed to the city, in which Ethan Allen Park is to be public land forever. I have it with me. I would appreciate if there's someone from the legal side who would like to read it. I have 2 copies of it, but it's from 1905, and I think it's very pertinent to what's happening here. We need to keep that green space for ecological reasons and for our children to have a place to explore the world without having to have something given to them to use. They need to be able to use their mind and their hands and their feet to explore nature. And that's what our park is for. Thank you.
I see you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Gary DeCarlis. Live in the New North End. I looked at your guiding principles, and one of them says protect natural areas. I think you're missing a guiding principle, and that is to say no development in parks within the city. And if you don't do that, you did have a little yellow dot that said housing on Ethan Allen Park just a couple of months ago when I went to that open house down at 1 Main Street. And I said, I'm against any kind of housing or development in city parks. And I got a question back, why would you think that? And I said, my response was, they're precious. It's the soul of the city. You don't play around with that. So whether it's in the New North End or the South End or downtown, city parks are off limits for any kind of development. That's a guiding principle I think you're missing.
Hi, I'm Jeff. I've been here since 2007 with my wife, Kara, in the New North End. One of the things I want to mention is you mentioned community and that you've reached out and this is what we want. We want splash pads. And I think most of us really don't want splash pads. It's an additional cost, right? That can only be used. The other thing is community. We were all taken by surprise. So you're saying the community wants this, but I don't think we've had input on this, right? And then there's other language on the city, the city. We are the city. We are what build the city. We are the taxpayers, right? We are the ones who contribute tax money. And I am happy to do it, but also Like if you look at our community, that Star Farm space is, if you look at social equity, so many low income families and new American families use that. The other week we had a Nepali team and an African team playing soccer. It was the most beautiful sight of people coming together from all different backgrounds and enjoying it and cheering it. And our neighborhood supports that, right? We love hearing that. That's what makes that park special to us. And that, I just wanted to say that, but I think when you say community, we are the community and we're not being heard.
I appreciate that, and I do want to note and raise the question, pose the question still. We would love to know the best ways to reach folks too and keep people involved. So whether it's coming up and filling up if I can't hear you from back there, but other ways to reach you, really interested in that, whether it's through a listserv or otherwise, really open to learning more about how we can address that at a citywide level too.
Hey, my name is Donna. I've been a resident for 41 years in this area, and my big concerns here are the infrastructure. You know, they're saying, oh, well, it's only going to raise it, how many gallons a day? Well, if you all think back, when they developed the, by Hannaford's, it was a private developer, and if you all remember the thousands and thousands of dollars of damage to all the people down Shore Road and all the existing streets that development played on our infrastructure, who do you think covered that? The poor homeowners. My neighborhood, 7 of the homes already have had issues with sewers. Who pays for that? Not the city. The homeowner pays for the damage to their infrastructure. So this is our sewer system, and they want to incorporate it by adding how many more buildings and apartment units? Think about it. I mean, they're not really studying this. This is a private, small neighborhood, and all of my neighbors it's a great financial burden. And down Shore Road, it was a huge financial burden to all those poor homeowners, and a lot of them are retired. They can't come up with $10,000, $15,000, and they had to. The damage, the flooding, it was, and most of you people probably never heard about this, did you? And that was those 3 buildings that went up by the Hannafords. So just something to think about. And those are privately owned as well. So what all the people that live there, what are their tax burden? You know, are they really supporting the school system? Just a thought.
I think I saw this one.
I don't really know if I need this, but my name.
I'm gonna ask you to use it anyway, and your outdoor voice. This is for the TV.
It's for the camera.
Smile, yeah. Anyway, my name's Gus Klein. I'm a Burlington resident. Been here all my life. So the question I had on one of the cue cards was, you know, for the long-term planning, you know, I think the gentleman said community. Have we looked at, other than housing? That seems to be the buzzword for everything. Housing. We're gonna get housing. Have we ever thought about job opportunities? You know, in the city of Burlington, on these public package spaces, how do you bring industry into the place? I mean, we got enough bumblebee patches around this place, you know, and green spaces and all that. I don't know if we really need any more of them, but we could use some good paying jobs in the city of Burlington, you know, where people need to go to work. That's it.
Thank you for that. And I do want to plug again, one of the reasons that the city has never had an economic development strategy before. And one of the 4 pillars of planBTV 2050 is creating the city's very first economic development strategy to answer those exact questions and identify where opportunities are, what industries we need to do or need to really pursue, how we can really bring jobs back to Burlington and consider all of that. So again, I just want to flag through. Definitely stay involved there.
Okay, I've got our next.
Brian Lovejoy, grew up in the South End, lived out here for 27 years. I hear the word affordability thrown around. How is this going to increase our taxes? Because that affects my affordability. Are the taxes going to go up because of this?
I'm sorry.
Am I not making sense?
No, you're making sense. I don't have an idea of for each of these developments or any of this, how that's going to
in
affect
general,
your.
Will this affect taxes? Will they go up?
No, these are not related. No, sorry, no.
Taxes won't go up?
Sorry, I can't guarantee in this moment that taxes in general are not going to go up.
Well, I know taxes are going to go up, but is this going to be the cause
this
of our
plan,
taxes going up?
No, this plan again is not unlocking or leading to any financial allocations in any way. This is not earmarking anything in our budget. These are recommendations and will not, this plan will not result in your taxes going up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, yes. I can't reach you in the blue shirt with the hair down to here, that helmet, like helmet. And I see the others in the back. I see you. So, great. Yes, please.
I want to say thank you. How many people here were at the BTV event downtown where we could give feedback? It was the most inspired event where there's so much energy that you guys brought to it, that we were taking input, we were marking things on maps where we wanted things to happen in town. And that was an event that was sparked the feedback. And the way I've read what you've put back to the town based on what we said, I want to say thank you. I've heard a lot of no's, what we don't want here, what we don't want, but we need to do something. And in my work, what I love to do is be the first one to make, write a paper, because nobody likes to write the paper, but everybody likes to tell you what you did wrong. And to me, this is like why the perfect example of doing Star Farm and writing things down and drawing them gives people something to not like, and it gives them something to think about. And I think that was a brilliant move on your part. I want better roads to ride my bike. I'm not going to get everything I want. I want to be safe. I want to ride my bike in the winter to work. I'm probably not going to get that. But I also want more people to live here in a safe place and a happy place. And so I know that we are not the urban planners of 50 years ago. You guys are way more inspired, and you got into this because you have a vision, and I want to say thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hi, how are you? I'm Jackson. I was born and raised on Star Farm Road. I've been here my whole life, 25 years, so not as much as many of you, but I think a big portion of my life has been spent in that park, loving it, loving the green space. And so that's part of the reason why I'm here. So 10 years ago, the Trump administration attempted to roll back protections for public lands in Utah on Bears Ears and Grand Escalante. There was a huge pushback from not only the community within Utah, but the community around the country, including myself, signing petitions, posting online to protect public lands, because once they're gone, they're gone. Once they're developed, we can't get them back. And they won. 10 years ago, they won. They were able to stop the opening of the lands to private development. 10 years later, 2 weeks ago, the Trump administration did the same thing. And those lands are now open to development again. So I understand when you say this is a vision, this is not a plan. Right now, there are no active, shovels breaking the ground on Star Farm Park. I hear you, but I don't hear what you're saying of that's not going to happen in the future. And I agree, I do think something should be done. And I think what should be done is parks should be protected, not just for me growing up here, loving it, but for my kids who I hope can play on the same playground I did, and for my grandkids who I hope can learn to ride their bikes in the same trails and paths that I did. I think just by saying that it's a vision and it's not happening right now doesn't guarantee that it won't happen in the future. And I think the true brave thing for the Planning Commission and for the City Council and for the City of Burlington to do is commit on paper and writing to not developing public parks, because they are something. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Did I see some people back there? Did I see some people back there? Are you coming to me? Excellent. Thank you for making the move here.
Thank you. I'd like to express appreciation for all the plans that you've made and how detailed they are. I just wish that we had sort of known more about it. I think that it's very important that you do something at the Hannaford shopping center and connect it more to Letty Park. I think that's fine. I'm concerned about the bike paths. I love bicycles, and I think they're great, not only recreationally, but to get to work. but I don't see how we need two-way bike paths on either side of North Avenue. I just question that that's going to be used. And also, I'm old. I'm not going to ride my bicycle to in the winter to get groceries. I'm not. So I think that a lot of people who are in this aging situation are going to be a little concerned about that. And one pet peeve, when you drive down North Avenue and you bear right onto Plattsburgh, why in God's name can't you let people turn on a right hand on a red light?
I want to make 2 clarifying points there. I highly encourage you to check out the visuals that are imagined for the new Plattsburgh Ave intersection. There's a pretty cool one that involves a bump out, and it wouldn't even be a right turn lane. It would actually just be straight through. So definitely check that out. And I also want to emphasize that the concept for the reconfiguration of North Ave would result in a sidewalk shared use path on one side of North Ave, not on both sides. So it would be on one side separated and would most likely, instead of being a two-way, be a shared use path. So imagine Pine Street, for example, similar to that. So it would not, and again, multi-use, not just for bikes. So those are just 2 clarifications I wanted to make, and definitely check out the intersection change.
We have one more commenter that I know of. I'd like to pass the mic.
Thank you. So I've tried to move to the New North End a few times. I haven't been able to. It's really hard to get. The spaces don't free up fast, and there aren't a lot of new ones coming. So I'm stuck in South Burlington for now. But despite that, I've still been able to go to the planBTV events that have happened already. But I'm a nerd. I love going to planning events. I studied planning. I get excited about those things, so I go to them even if they aren't in my town because they do affect me. Anything we do in one town will affect other people. And so I see that there's a lot of people who felt really confused and blindsided by this. And I know that that's really frustrating when you don't see it coming up. But like the other person said a little bit before me, I think it was kind of maybe great that you made these mock-ups. I know some people called them detailed plans. Those are not detailed plans. If you've seen any planning in Vermont, you know that you'll see a mock-up 7, 10, 20 years or never before something actually gets done. But it clearly got some people excited to want to come out and participate. I'm a little sad to see how much of the reaction is just out of negativity and not out of like a joy to try to plan for the many problems we face within our community. And so I hope that a lot of you feel assuaged in how long this project is looking forward and how very little of it is like concrete details, and that you will stay engaged in this planning process in the rest of the planBTV, not just as the things that affect your personal neighborhood in the New North End, but also as they affect other parts of town that you interact with. This is a lot of post-war neighborhoods. I know some of you have lived here longer and there are some older houses, but of course, one of the issues with post-war neighborhoods is that the municipal side of the tax revenue is really low for the amount of infrastructure. And so you are waiting for the rest of the city to subsidize you. If we add structures, it actually helps you afford to fix your infrastructure faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, thanks. I'm going to look for her. I think we have time for you. I'm just going to make eye contact with the host.
And again, this 1 to 2 more, this is not going to be the last opportunity for feedback or involvement. So just thank you. And I think 1 to 2 more.
1 to 2 more you've identified. You've got your hand raised. I want to see the okay. Oh, there's 3. There's 3. I'm gonna go 1, 2, and then we'll have to wrap up. Thank you. Apologies. Can we do 3? Can we do 3?
If that's the last one,
We're gonna do 3.
Okay.
1.
We can do 3, but then
We're getting
is
crazy.
The last one. I'm sorry.
We're getting crazy. 1, 2, 3. Thank you for helping us work through this.
Thank you. Excuse me. My name is Tim Carney. I moved to the area about 50 years ago. Grew up here, and again, want to thank everybody for coming tonight and for the team putting a lot of thought into this. the concern is not so much about the input to date, but it's the fact that if you start the clock at the point in time when the community first saw this write-up, that was only a few weeks ago. And this is really the first meeting we've all had a chance to come together and talk about it. And I think even the people here leading tonight would, if they're being honest, I think you have been, say they're disappointed that the mayor couldn't come and more people couldn't come to answer our questions. I also think it would be in the spirit of community involvement if the community could see the revised plan before it went to the vote next week. And I think that's the thing that really concerns me the most is the process. We've seen time and time again in the city and the state and other places where once these plans get locked in, it's very difficult to change them. And you know, it's really not quite fair to say the community bought into this plan since we've only seen it for a few weeks. And this is really the first meeting. So I think maybe to put a pin on it, that's the biggest concern I have in terms of the involvement. It really doesn't feel up to par in this case. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name's Anne-Marie Klein, and I know tonight's focus was on Star Farm Park and Ethan Allen Park, but what about Battery Park? What about the kids down that way that want to go to the Beansy bus or walk along the wall or play in the park, and they can't go to concerts anymore? They're actually thinking about moving the whole bandstand someplace else. Are we going to talk about that in the future? Is there a place to bring this topic? Is it going to come up in the future? Because it's not just about the kids out here, it's about the kids down there too.
Yeah, definitely. And just in response to that question, we are, I want to encourage participation in the 2050 comp plan that is looking at the update to, I think, the 2016 parks plan. So we can definitely share that feedback with the parks team, but I really also want to encourage you to share that publicly at those meetings.
Okay, thank you.
Please. Sure.
Appreciate it. Hi, my name's Chase. I live in the New North End. I actually live on Star Farm Road, right across from the park and in the area where I've seen the maps mocked up. I just wanted to share a little bit about my story, which is, you know, we did try to buy a house in Burlington like 15 or 16 times, and we finally got one, and we live there now. That's where we live, on Star Farm Road. And that meant a lot to us to get a house because it's tough out there. And so I understand the need for housing, but we wanted to live in Burlington because this is a different kind of community. There are green spaces, and the community gathers in those green spaces. And that's where, I mean, I don't know all of you, but I know a bunch of you. And that's where I meet my neighbors, and that's where our kids play. And the idea of preserving what is good about Burlington should be so central to what we're doing. And I know that there are these goals in your plan to build community and to bring us together. We're already together. It's already happening. And so what I would hope is that we can think about developing housing in ways that preserve what is good, because we could live in a city somewhere else in this country that has developed its green spaces. There are a bunch of them. There aren't very many Burlingtons out there. If you look across the country, there aren't that many towns with this character, with this community, with these green spaces, with this access to nature, and with these people. And it would just be a shame, in the name of housing, which is incredibly important, I think, as my story attests, to get rid of those green spaces. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank everybody for coming tonight. Again, this is an ongoing conversation. We are planning to do another meeting like this with some more of the folks who couldn't be here today due to unforeseen circumstances. And we really appreciate all the feedback. We've already been doing some public engagement, and we are continuing to do more. And the feedback will be taken along the way. And we hear you. We hear how important these things are to you. So thank you for coming. I think we only have this space booked until 8, so we do have to vacate. CCTV will be taking, if anybody wants to give additional comments, they're going to move outside. So if anybody would like comments documented for CCTV, Charlie would be happy to do that. But thank you again, and have a good night.
Actually, I'm on the outside of
Yeah, and I think that's the focus. Like when I talked to Charles previously, it's like also using it, like adding like maybe community garden spaces or something. Yeah, I mean, I think the New North End, like there's still a lot of room to like improve. I think like having more businesses, being more business friendly, letting people in.
Yeah, so we're a group of neighbors from the New North End, and we're here to speak out against the proposed plan to develop Star Farm Park and Ethan Allen Park into parking lots and expanded road, and destroying the green space that we as a community, both in the New North End and as Burlington residents, really hold dear.
So when did you guys first hear about this project?
Personally, I heard about it 3 weeks ago or so when the full plan was released by the planBTV Commission. I think that's something that a lot of us are really frustrated about is this plan has been billed as something that's been neighbor built and kind of based on community input. But for most of the residents that I've spoken to, and at least a lot of us here, there hasn't really been any communication from the city until the plan was dropped online. And we all kind of reacted with the same surprise because it came as one.
Anyone else care to add anything to that?
Well, the plan's been online. We just heard that the plan was online since 2024. They have a 79-page developed plan for the development, not just the North End parks, but the whole city Burlington Park. So we were a little upset that it was not spread to the rest of the neighborhood, not even us, but North Shore, Pleasant, Curtis, Star Farm, or even the city parks in the South End. So we're a little upset with that.
So have you had any communication with your city councilors or the mayor's office about this?
Little bit. You guys had no contact at all. They're supposed to be here tonight. That's why we came down tonight to visit and speak our word. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Jeff from the New North End also. And, you know, one of the things about our green spaces is for social equity for a lot of families who don't have yards. It's a green space. It's an open opportunity for people all over from different socioeconomic levels to go ahead and socialize and meet each other. And it's kind of like developing our national parks, but on a local scale, because once we sell them and they're gone forever. We're never going to get these spaces back. So that's why I'm here. And that's why I think most of these other people are here too.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Alice Rudd. I'm a resident of the New North End. And one of the reasons I'm here is I've lived on Star Farm Road since 1993 and was involved through community outreach through the Burlington Open Space Protection Plan that was adopted by the City Council in 2000 and amended in 2014. And it talks, I hope everybody looks at it, it talks about how the open spaces of this city add to clean air, it adds to cooling, it adds to noise dissipation, and taking away would be a real assault to our community as a whole.
Yeah, hi, I'm James Sherrod. I'm a New North End resident, and I'm here for a couple of reasons. I think our community is pretty aligned behind trying to not only save Star Farm Park, which a lot of these folks live right next to, but also now that we've become aware that the city is willing to develop our public parks and green spaces, I think we want to try to find a way through ordinance or otherwise to prohibit the development. And we have some signs here. I think the one I like the most is don't like pave paradise and put up a parking lot, right? Like we're here trying to save public spaces that once they're gone. Someone has already said that. Also, something that's I'm really passionate about is that we seem to be having a focus on increasing supply, which is great and important when it comes to additional housing. But we're not focused on demand, or at least I haven't seen the city really focus on demand. And demand, part of that demand is wealthy investors coming and buying up units. And nowhere in the plan and nowhere in the pending Sears Lane development can I find a guarantee that public land won't end up having investor-owned rental units on it. So it's entirely possible that we'll have landlords profiting off of rental units on public land. And for me personally, that's something that I'm really, really against and would like to try to take this community engagement and both preserve our parks, but also make sure we're thinking about what housing we build really critically and trying to increase ownership as opposed to landlords.
I came here to retire because of the park spaces and the recreation. And I'm just outraged that some developer is controlling this, and it's not what we want here. We don't want more condos, and I always thought, where do you stop? Do you want to keep on going high rises? And they're talking about Hannaford's Plaza, putting the parking underground. It's just crazy. I'm just not happy with this at all.
Do it on